Hey guys, welcome back to another video on the Inside Spurs channel. Happy Friday morning to you all. Happy start of your weekend. I hope everyone's all right. Hope everyone's okay and having a good day. Obviously, in this video, we're going to be talking a little bit about Christopher Nkunku. We're talking about the report that came out surrounding the Chelsea attacker. We're talking about Alejo Veliz. We're talking about a little small update on Leroy Sané. We're going to talk about Mark Guay. We're going to talk about all sorts. You'll see it when we get there. Going to be quite a condensed show today. I've got stuff that I need to be prepared for. But no, we'll get into it. We'll jump in. Morning, Graham, Steve, Tall Corpuscle. What's the name? Big up this channel, Positivistic Chat. Appreciate it, mate. Spurs Adventurous. Janice, Marshall. AJ, how are we? How are we all? Look, let's jump in and talk Christopher Nkunku and shout out of Rec in the Discord, because actually he sent it over. It's from Ben Jacobs though, and I sort of looked at it in a bit more detail. But apparently Spurs have made an inquiry for Chelsea forward Christopher Nkunku. A little backstory into Christopher Nkunku and who he is and what he's about. He's 27 years old. He'll be 28 in the middle of November. French international, sort of plays quite a few different positions in the attack, to be fair. He's got a contract in the summer of 2029. Like I said, plays for Chelsea. Capped 14 times for France. Chelsea, it was a big money move to Chelsea. I remember back in the day, sort of 60, 70 million, I think it was. When you look at his stats on paper, they actually look all right. 42 games played, 14 goals and 5 assists. You're thinking 19 goal contributions, 1 in every 2 games, basically. That's not too bad. And I've been really on it with Christopher Nkunku, and I'm keen to see what you guys think, because this was a guy who he was going to be France's next big thing before his Chelsea move and before his injury. It was his next. They were the next big. He was the next big player. He in training supposedly would just destroy the French internationals, destroy Kanté and Pogba and all the Varane and all their unbelievable defenders. Apparently, he would just shred them all. And he was a really, really good player at Leipzig. And if we were talking right now, the player that was at Leipzig, I would be jumping for joy, doing backflips, all sorts, because the Leipzig Christopher Nkunku was an absolutely magical player. Absolutely magical player. But when I was looking at his stats in a bit more detail, if you actually take away his 9 Conference League appearances, he's actually left with 9 goals in 33 appearances, and he's got 2 assists. So he's 11. So it's 1 in every 3. So his Conference League performances: 9 games, 5 goals, 3 assists. So really great in the Conference League side of things. But there's not really been that there. And is it a Maresca problem that maybe that he doesn't really suit the Maresca brand of football? I don't know. This one for me, I would steer clear of personally. Now, again, really like Christopher Nkunku, the Leipzig player, and I'd be like, we need to be all over this. This is a bit of me, this. But he's going to be expensive, okay? He's going to be expensive. The deal isn't going to be cheap. The deal isn't, some 20, 30 million pound deal. They're going to want 50, 60 million. I mean, there was talk of Nkunku to Bayern in January, wasn't there, or something like that? And they were talking, big money moves and things like that. I really don't know on this one. I really don't know on this one personally. My other sort of thinking on this is, even though, he's quite versatile, he is best suited centrally, in my opinion. We don't really play our midfield 3 at times. They're not deep, but, Maddison can play like a deep line playmaker and things like that. That's like sort of 8s. And Nkunku is better much further forward. So I don't really know if it will work, to be honest. I'm not really too sold on this one. If I'm going to be real with you, I think we could be doing better here. Again, this is going to be sort of one of those ideas that it could be, it could be a loan deal, adventurous. It could be a loan deal. And it could be a punt. We talked yesterday about Jack Grealish supposedly being on the loan market. And I've sort of said with Grealish, a season-long loan with Grealish, I actually quite like. Suits what being a Spurs player, he suits that, doesn't he? So yeah, this one though, I'm just not as sold. I don't know what it is. I don't really know what it is. I look at Grealish and I think, yeah, this is a play. I look at Nkunku and I think this isn't the play. I'm trying to wrap my head around it personally, because like I said a few years ago, unbelievable player. He would have been someone that I would have loved at Tottenham, but because of the injuries and how he has looked in the Premier League, he looks like he just doesn't look quite as sharp, and he doesn't look quite as quick as he used to be, and he doesn't look quite as good with the ball. It's all those things. So I really don't know. I really don't know on this one. What do you guys think? Would you want Christopher Nkunku? Would you want to get him in? Like I said, not a cheap deal on paper either. Factor that in. Is this Timo vibes? Probably not Timo, not that far Timo vibes, but yeah, not fully Timo vibes, but probably not exactly the strongest one you can go for. More than any idea how to get Super Cup tickets? Most of the time, having points and things like that would help. General sale if they get there. If not, hire a plane, get a parachute, and just jump down into it. Tom Cruise style. Andy, what are your thoughts on Højlund from United? No, I'm personally not that keen, if I'm honest. I think he looks like he needs refining, and I don't know if he's going to. I don't know if we'd be able to give him that. Whereas you look at other Man United players, like let's just say Garnacho. You've seen quality from Garnacho. Yes, maybe it's not as much as you would fully have liked, but you have seen flashes at least. Whereas with Højlund, haven't really seen it, and it's been a couple of years, and it's big money, and it's why not get Bakayoko? Teddy, we just need to move on from Bakayoko. It's been floating around us for so long, Got to get around it. Got to get past it. We need some ready-made players to play. Just read somewhere that Mainu could be available to 50 to 80 million. It's a broad little range to work in, 50 to 80. It's a very broad range. Well, we'll sort of see. Let's move on to a little bit of Mathys Tel flavoured news. So TBR Football yesterday putting out that Mathys Tel wants to join Tottenham on a permanent deal this summer. Now, this is going to coincide a little bit with some Leroy Sané flavoured news, but I sort of put a post out the other day, and I said, would you want Tel? I put it out on YouTube quite frequently. Put posts out on YouTube because I think it's a really great way that sometimes when I miss some of your comments in the chat, I put a post out. So if I've missed it, when you comment there, I can directly get to you. I think Tel wants to join. I do. Everything that he's saying, everything that he's portrayed and things like that, I think he would want to stay. Obviously, there is the buy option that Spurs won't pick up. Like, we know that. He's technically basically a buying player again, right? But he's not going to play under company. I sort of said, if I could have it in the real, like my own little fantasy world, as I'm the guy buying him, right? For me, I was always somewhere between 30 to 35. That, and then some people sort of went, what about add-ons? And I did kind of think, well, yeah, actually, you could bump the deal up if necessary with add-ons, because actually, the way I've always looked at add-ons, right? I remember the Morgan Gibbs White deal when he moved to Forest, right? It was a 45 million deal, and everyone was like, what the hell? That's mental. It was actually only 25, and then there was 20 in add-ons, right? Something like that. And I said, but if Forest have to pay those add-ons, it means it's gone well. You know, they've survived at the time when they were coming up. This is when they recently came up. They would have survived, and they'll happily start paying on those add-ons. Teams want to pay those add-ons because if they do, it means there's been tons of success. It means what the best case scenario or situations for these players has occurred. You know, any owner, even like you could sit there and say the worst owners, the tightest owners, they'll also kind of go, yeah, but if add-ons are hit, that's not a bad thing in theory. It's quite a good thing. It's probably, especially if they're individual add-ons, it's sort of located right at the player. You make some money on them, you know. Do you want to see something done in the first chance win of the summer? Well, yeah. I mean, look, I would love to. I'd love something done for June 1st, you know, but I don't think we will be. I think Spurs, like I said, because of the Club World Cup, I do kind of think we're not in it, right? And I do kind of think we look at like Liverpool. We look at Real Madrid. Real Madrid have signed Trent to play in the Club World Cup. He will play for them in the next couple of weeks, right? Just saw that from David Ornstein. 10 million. So Liverpool did get money out of Trent in the end. It was 10 million. FFP, you know, all that stuff. But they're obviously doing business early because they've got a competition to try and win. And that competition, when it never really used to be anything anyone really gave a damn about, no offense, no one watched it on TV, did they? This time it's different. They pump money into it. You now actually, for winning it, earn quite a bit of money. You know, you know, even for doing just well in it, don't even have to win it. If you just do well in it, you'll earn quite a bit of money. So that's why these teams are starting to do early business to get players in for it. You know, because if let's say if you know Liverpool, right, if they were to win it, that would pay for like Jeremy Frimpong. You know, it would pay for most of Florian Wirtz probably if you add it all up in total. It'd probably they'd end up making the money to pretty much cover the Wirtz deal. You know, and that's why when people go, Liverpool aren't going to spend that money, you know, on Wirtz and Kirkes and Frimpong, and I'm like, they can, and they will. You know, that's because of this Club World Cup, and also winning the Premier League, like a lot of money in Champions League football. So, you know, that's why teams are. You know, I'd love for us to do it, but it isn't as vital for us as it is then. You know, it's not as vital for, you know, I don't know who's not in the Club World Cup, but, you know, let's say Atletico Madrid aren't in it. It's not as vital for them to do business right away, you know. Morning, Jason. How are you? I'd rather Tel than Sane. Give it a second. I'm coming to it. 20%. Tel would want to stay because he can see getting games here now with Champions League, and he had a good chance of getting games while at Bayern. He'd be lucky to make the squad. Danso. Well, yeah, technically speaking, you could say Danso's already going to be a signing, and you've already sold Pierre Højbjerg. You know, technically that is a sale. You are selling Pierre Højbjerg, so there's already been a bit of business done. They've made some money, obviously, on Marcus Edwards, made a few million. They made money on Jack Clark, don't forget, in January. So they've made a few. Maybe sales yet. It's Spurs. They don't seriously compete in the player market. Young guys for investments is the model. Well, like I said, Ange just said we need ready to go guys. So we'll sort of see. Look at my Discord message. What have you sent me? Xavi Simmons, Baleba, Esteve, and Tel. Oh, these are values. Okay. I'll have to look at that. Teddy, Freitag. Where the hell are you, mate? Freitag. Is that Friday in German or something? Are we involved in any kind of transfers in the first week of June? Well, yeah, we'll be involved. Doesn't mean they get done though. Every team's involved in deals. Doesn't mean it gets done. But yeah, on Tel. Let's talk about Telly. Let me tell you something. It does potentially have an impact on the Leroy Sané deal. So Christian Falk, you know, he sort of said that obviously, I think Zahavi, his agent, is very close to Daniel Levy, and they're looking obviously to, you know, get him a good deal this summer because this could be potentially his last big contract. You know, in his late 20s, he's going to be 30 in the middle of the season. Now, he sort of said, though, if Spurs were to sign Sane, they may not obviously go for Tel. I don't really. That's a weird one for me. So you've got a guy who's played 6 months for us, and he's obviously, very young, like very, very young. And he's going to cost way less than Sane will end up costing, right? Sane, I just can't get over the idea that the guy's going to be 30, right? In the middle of the season, he'll be 30. He's going to want a 3-4 year deal. It's not just the now. I'm also worried, and this is probably quite cynical of me, but on the back end, how you get off that deal, because he is going to be earning good money, right? He's not going to be earning, 100 grand a week. And we struggled to get rid of Reguilon, and he was earning what, 80k? When a guy's going to be earning 3-4 times that, and he's going to be quite old in football terms. He's not old. He's about 6 weeks older than me, so he's not old. I refuse to someone tell me that he's old. I just struggle with that. I absolutely struggle with that. Freitag is Friday in German. I'm impressed. Oh no, mate. Look at me go. Guten Tag. Oh, right. Swiss. Fair enough. Morning, Sonia. Don't be insane. Absolutely terrible. Sane old, Andy young. Exactly. He's old. I'm young though. We cut everyone younger than me. Very young. Everyone's young. Look, in all honesty, though, I would be a little bit worried if Sane is let's say you go and get Sane, that stops you getting Mathys Tel. That gives me a bit of a worry, if I'm honest. I don't know what to think about that, because I like Tel. I think there is a player there. I think we've seen flashes. I think people go, he's been rubbish in the league, and it's all those things that I kind of talk about and go, yeah, but you need to add context to these points. People that go like this many losses and add no context, it drives me insane. When I talk about, Tel, when he's playing in a team that has, I don't know, 9 rotations and 9 changes, yeah, he's probably not going to be amazing. He then plays in the Europa League with the main guys and the settled, the chemistry sort of laden team. And he was good against Frankfurt. He was good against Bodo Glimt as well. I mean, especially the second leg against Bodo Glimt, he was big reasons why we scored both goals. So there is a player there for me. I've seen things from him that I sort of like. He's very young. He also joined. This is the other thing, right? People go, he's rubbish when he started. He was rubbish at first. It's because he joined. He had basically not played football for a month. Do you guys remember when we signed Lucas Moura, right? He had barely played for PSG for the first period of the season, joins us, and needed 6 weeks to get going, right? It's because he didn't have any fitness. There was no sharpness. It's the same thing with Tel. He had no sharpness. He had no fitness. And then we had 12 injuries. So, yeah, he's probably going to struggle. I'm not going to lie. If you think he was supposed to come in and be prime Lionel Messi, I don't know what to tell you. All right? Don't know what to tell you. Apple and elderflower today. Very decent. Very decent, this. I'm a bit of an elderflower guy, by the way. I don't know if that appalls people, but yeah, I'm an elderflower kind of guy. Son was great his first season, so we need to give Tel more time. Tel, last few games has been very promising. Can we realistically sign Xavi Simons? Yes. And no Sancho. No. Summer fruit squash. I can't lie, adventurous. My heart did this morning. I ran out this morning. I had my last glass of it. I ran out. Where's Jonathan David going? I think he's going to Napoli with De Bruyne, because I think Conte is finally staying. How many calories? 8. 8 calories. It's an emergency, I know. Morning, Simo, mate. When experienced players for the Champions League, agree. Tel looked promising. His final form likely going to be impressive. How long it takes for him to get there? The great unknown. The great unknown, Diggers T. Absolutely a great unknown. Moving a little bit on, because there's still more to talk about. So Spurs obviously holding concrete interest in Leroy Sané. I wish we could just sign him just so I could say that name, but then also not sign him. No offense. Obviously, if we do sign him, and look, this is the other thing. I may say something, right? But if Ange really wants them and he's the manager, regardless who the manager is, if the manager wants them, then I want them as well. Doesn't mean I'm sold on the idea, but I want them as well, because at the end of the day, if the manager goes, I want this player because I think this player is going to help me get to here, and as a fan, we're gonna improve. I want to be there as well. If you need him, then let's do it. By the way, I'm not the manager. I'm not making the decisions, but just a shout. Al dente, mate, how are you? So there's that on a little bit on Sane. Bentancur. So I've got to do this one. Apparently, Bentancur is ready to sign a new contract with Spurs. We rate him highly. And apparently, they think he has the potential to become a captain for Spurs. I don't know about captain. But I think looking at how he performed, obviously, because you got to remember as well. The other thing, I think he struggled this season, Bentancur, right? But I will give the benefit of doubt for periods of the season where he struggled. Again, 12 injuries. He was suspended for 6 weeks. It's all those things that go into it as well. He never sort of managed to just get a run of games going where people were, fit around him. He then went to the international break, the last one with Uruguay, played really well. He then comes back. He plays against Chelsea, plays well against Chelsea, and then from there was really consistently playing very, very well. And that was sort of the Bentancur that we all go, yeah, we remember this one. That's the guy that, for me, that's the guy that I've said he's our best midfielder. If everyone's at 10 out of 10, he's the best midfielder we've got. But we just hadn't seen it for such a long time. And you've always got to remember with contracts, by the way, this is the other thing I've sort of learned more so from like watching sports shows in America. I watch them on YouTube, but I'm not watching Fox and on ESPN, but I watch them on YouTube. And they always talk about, hey, you give a contract not to what he's done. There is a reward for what you've done, but also we're also going to be rewarding you for what you think you're going to do. So even though you might be really great right now, you are a little bit older. We think there's going to be a drop off in the next 2 years. We're going to move on from we're going to try and get financially to reflect that. It's the same thing that I think maybe in football they don't do enough of at times, is think about the contract for what you want from him, not for where he is right now. That's just my thinking on that. That's just kind of my thinking on that. So, don't reward for them. You reward them for the now, but also this is because we think you're going to go from here to here. So we're going to try and reflect that in the contract for the length and the wages and that sort of thing. So it's something that I learned, and I from then on, it's been drilled into my head, that school of thought. I'm sure Hans will listen to what you think. God no. Yeah, I think Arsenal might go for Sesko. I think. Well, I saw that. I can't remember who it was, but someone said that Bayern Munich had acquired into Gyökeres, and I was like, "You've got the world's best striker already. What are you doing?" And I thought about it, and I was like, "Can you imagine those teams who Gyökeres can press from the front? Obviously, that's something that Kane obviously can't do as well, but." They always said, "Oh, can you drop Kane into the 10?" That's how you bloody do it. You stick him up front with another good striker, During the Europa League run, Bentancur was immense. Absolutely. I think we all sort of agree. And just like podcasts. Well, there you go. There we go. You'll drive Tel to the airport free of charge and throw a McDonald's Happy Meal on the way. I reckon they're expensive nowadays, those Happy Meals. They always got worse when they got rid of the toys. I'm just saying. Do you think any of the players returning from loan have a chance to make the first team next season? Maybe not the first. Maybe let's label it as the squad. So they make the squad, right? So I think Solomon's getting sold. I think Brian Hill's getting sold. I'll come into Veliz in just a minute. I think one of the centre backs, Phillips or Vuskovic, has an absolute chance. Donnelly, I think Keeley goes out on loan. They've got 3 keepers. They don't need him right this second. I think another loan deal for Keeley would be a good championship side. Mason, if he ends up at West Brom, could be a shout. For a place for loans, by the way, not just saying just Keeley, but places for loans. Donnelly, I feel like Donnelly might. I think Donnelly's going to have a chance in pre-season, like Devine. I think they're both going to have a chance in pre-season, but I could see Donnelly going out on loan. I could. I've always quite liked what I've seen from Alfie Devine in like pre-season and stuff like that. And, I don't know. Maybe it's a bit weird, but I don't know. Yeah, I think a lot of them would have taken if you think about the gap between like let's say the first team and where they are. If they're not going to make the first team, I think they've closed that gap tremendously. That's kind of my thinking, Richard. How are you, by the way? Barnes got the best striker until he's not available. You've got Vincent Janssen as a backup. Oh, Jesus. Hey, Dees, how are you? Key's gonna be a good keeper, absolutely. Yeah, in Spanish law, I think it is players have to have release clauses. It's very odd. I think it's a genuine law they have. What position is Devine as 6, 8, something like that? All basically in the midfield. He's just a central midfielder, So we shall see on that one because there's. I don't know. And by the way, I've seen the ITK saying that Spurs have started talking with Eberechi's camp. Not going to get myself worked up about that just yet. Let's just wait and see how that goes, shall we? Cardoso, little shout on Cardoso. Marco said that he is supposedly wanting to join Atletico Madrid. Okay. I don't think I think there's a good player potentially there. I don't think he would be exactly what we need right this season. I don't think he would replace Bentancur, to be honest. I don't see him replacing Bergvall or Madison as a starter. So I'm not as... Look, if they've signed him, they sign him. We've got a sell-on clause. So we're going to make some money out of that deal because obviously that was part of the Lo Celso trade. We own some of Cardoso, which was always a bit mad, wasn't it? With that was always a weird deal. But look, if they sign him, and I'd assume Betis are going to charge way more than what they'd have gotten from Spurs as well. So Spurs will make some money out of it. So if we're not going to get him, that's that. Terrible, Steve. Terrible. So that's that on Cardoso. Veliz. I had my... Where is it? I did have it. Alejo Veliz. Yeah, here it is. So Esteban Edu, Argentinian man in the world of football, saying that apparently Rosario Central will begin working on a deal for Alejo Veliz. He's the number 9 they've been dreaming of. Well, there you go. When we see links, we can all chat. Would they be good signing? Can't believe anything until they're pitching and Birking with a Spurs holdall. Terrible. Betis really must have wanted Lo Celso. So much so that he was on the bench. He was on the bench against Chelsea. I don't know how this is going to go, to be honest, with Veliz, because there's a couple schools of thought in my head, right? Number one, he struggled on loan with Espanyol, right? Do you somehow maybe go for it again? Not Espanyol, but another loan deal and try and get him some form. try and build him up that way. Is that a one more chance, last chance saloon kind of thing? Is it, or is it a situation where you go, we don't know if he's ever going to take that leap, right? Excuse me. If you're not sure he's ever going to take that leap, you probably want to look to move off of him this summer. And it's one of those things that not every deal works, by the way. I know some people get really annoyed, like, we signed this guy and it didn't work. That's so poor of us. It's like, yeah, not every player you sign is going to work. Just a heads up, right? Look at Chelsea. Look at all the players in their squad. Not all of them have worked. Liverpool, Manchester City, like, and also it doesn't mean they're bad players, because obviously different situations suit different players. You could be in a situation at one club, it not work, move, and it absolutely flies off the bat. It really is kind of weird in that way. But I really don't know if they go out that loan route and try and loan him out, or they try and sell him out. I'm trying to wrap my head around it personally. I think there's a situation where Spurs have so many really talented young strikers coming through. There's obviously Veliz, you can add part of that. Veliz and Scarlett and Lancashire, the three that everyone thinks about. Melier is coming through as well. We've got 4, 5, 6 of them coming through, and they're not all going to play for Spurs, it's my thinking is you're probably going to make a loss on Veliz, but if he's not going to play for Spurs, it's not going to work. Cash in and get some money, to not drink from the bottle. Do you think it's time to move on from Dane Scarlett? I think Dane needs to get a loan deal potentially, if he's not going to be around the first team. He needs a loan deal, and he needs it to go well, because his last 2 loan deals haven't worked. Ipswich, no one expected Ipswich to be as good as they were when he got loaned there. They'd just come up, or I think they just come up, and they've gone straight up to the Premier League, and he played 180 minutes in 6 months. At Oxford, I think Oxford was much better than Ipswich, because you couldn't really get much worse than Ipswich. It was much better than Ipswich. He was scoring goals. He was playing a little bit more. But, towards the end, he really wasn't playing enough. And I think Spurs were kind of fed up with 20 minutes here and there. And I think that's why then he came back. And obviously scored a goal when he came back for us as well. So if he can get a good championship club, we saw flashes at Oxford. If we can get a good championship club to take him on and him be like their main number 9, then I think that's worth it. I think the same with Lancashire as well. I think I genuinely, this season, I think, every Tuesday that we do the loan roundup on this channel, right? Next week's Tuesday, by the way, is just a roundup of all of them for the whole of their season. And it's the last one for months. It's devastating, I know. Next season's loan roundup, I might be spending more time talking about the players out on loan in the Championship than anything else, because I think we're going to have a lot of players in the Championship. You could have a Divine in the Championship if he's not going to be playing at Spurs first team next year. Same with Donnelly and Keeley and Lancashire and Scarlett. I think Abbott probably gets a League One maybe move, something like that. You had Phillips. With Phillips, obviously, Vuskovic. It's all these ones. I'm not saying they're going to be in the Championship, but there's an opportunity I think Spurs might have. Yang was in the Championship, obviously. Spurs might end up having 6 or 7 players out on loan in the Championship, which riveting stuff. No CDM news. Well, technically, we talked about Bentancur. Since Lucas Cardoso's gone, should we target someone like Edison, maybe Don Fabio coming back? Look, I like Edison. I do. Everyone on this channel knows that I like Edison. And we're talking Edison from Atalanta, not Manchester City. His market seems to have gone really quiet. But obviously, right, so Atalanta are going through a weird period at the moment because Gasperini is looking like he's going to become the Roma manager. So new manager in Atalanta this summer. I don't know who it's going to be. Allegri is going to AC Milan. I know that. Conte, I assume, is staying at Napoli. Juve are with Tudor. I don't know if they're going to keep Tudor or not. But there's a couple of big teams in Italy that might need manager changes. I mean, Roma needed one, and there you go. They take one of the other ones. I think with then that being the case, Atalanta having Champions League football as well. Let's not knock that. They're going to want to try and hold on to players like Ederson and Lookman. That's why I feel like Lookman may stay this year, especially because him and Gasperini obviously had that, sort of beef earlier on in the season. With him moving on, I think, it just makes sense. I've just cancelled Tuesday. Apologies. I know. How awful of me. It's the season bloody finishes and I then have to cancel loan Tuesdays. We hate to see it. But yeah, I think next season, by the way, just on the loan deals, I know it's maybe not exciting for some people because they think, they want to be talking about how we're signing 12 players and things like that. Genuinely, next season, Leipzig and Arsenal have begun negotiating for Benjamin Sesko. There you go. Maurice Cause is set at over 80 million euros. Oh, Jesus. Jesus. Fair play. Next season with the loan players, I think, obviously Spurs had, it was like 10 players out on loan this season, something like that. Off the top of my head, I'm just guessing 10. I think you've got something similar next season, and I think the Championship is where you're going to see a lot of players. So, like I said, Yang was there, Phillips was there, Lancashire was there. Is anyone else in the Championship I missed? Solomon was there. I think that's 4, and then obviously you had 2 in 3 in League One because you had Matthew Craig at Barnsley and then Mansfield Town. You then obviously had Abbott in League 2. So all through the English pyramid was littered with Spurs youth players. I think same thing again next season. If you've got a big handful in the Championship, you can do that again. I think Donnelly and Keeley have shown they could be Championship players. I think they will be next season. I've just got a feeling they're going to both be on loan, by the way. It's not to say they're not good. I'm just thinking for their development, a season in the Championship would really speed it up. They might, especially Donnelly. I think Donnelly out of the two probably has more chance due to obviously so many keepers. But Donnelly might absolutely wow in pre-season. Same thing with Alfie Devine. They might absolutely really wow in pre-season and they'll be kept around, And I know a lot of people get excited by that because they think, because we all get excited. We like to see academy players come through a system, but they've got to be ready. That's the other thing, Scottish League too. Yeah, Dorrington in the Scottish League. I could see Alfie being on loan in the Championship next season. He's a Scottish Cup winner. Fair play to him. He's a Scottish Cup winner. Can't believe they turned that around against Celtic. That's mental. But yeah, no, I think there's a situation there where you're going to have a lot of players in the Championship on loan. And I think that's really exciting. It means I get to watch way more Championship football, which I actually like the Championship quite a bit, So, yeah, we'll have to wait and see on that. We'll have to wait and see on that one. But look, on Sane as well, evidently Spurs have their interest in Sane. Financially, I don't know how it would work because we don't do those sort of things. Mark Guay, wasn't it? I want to talk Mark Guay. That was the last thing I want to talk about. Hang on. Let me fetch old Mark. Oh, Mark. Little voice crack for you. Where is it? Yeah. So I think this is Paul O'Keefe, actually. Paul O'Keefe saying that apparently Bayern Munich are in talks with Mark Guay. Newcastle, to the Telegraph, they say they want Mark Guay. Like, fair play. And this is the thing that, when we think about the January chance window that went, and we put in that really late bid for Mark Guay, there's a few fold of thought around that. Obviously, the first one was they're just trying to, we tried, but we couldn't get him. That's one school of thought. The second one was they're going to try and buy him now because if it gets to the summer, they don't think they're going to have a chance. And then obviously then obviously think about the other school of thought is he might have been the Romero replacement, right? Right. If him's going to Bayern, I think it's a great move for him. I really, really do. You know, you've obviously got Kim Min Jae, Upamecano, Jonathan Tah, and then you might have Mark Guay, and that's an unbelievable centre back room, by the way. And that's what I've always talked about. I've always talked about, got Mickey, you got Kuti, who I think are fantastic. Big Kev Dancer, I think there's a player there. Why can't you have another really good centre back in that room? People always go, but why would he join? He's not going to play. It's like, but they are going to play. They are going to play. You got 4 competitions. I've always said, if you think Mickey Van der Ven and Christian Romero would play 55 times a season, you are absolutely out of your mind. They can barely play 25. But the idea as well, if you have good quality players, you can rotate those players more. You keep those players fitter because they're not having to play as often. Instead of Romero playing, let's say Saturday, and this season, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, right? He can play Saturday, Tuesday. And then what's after that? It could be he's going to play, he's not going to play this one, he's going to play that Tuesday, he's going to play that Saturday, or he's going to play Saturday. Having that quality will allow you to rotate and keep these players healthier for longer. Instead of Mickey Van der Ven running, and this is the other thing. And I think maybe this is, Ange has to hold himself obviously accountable to this, as well as other people, by the way. He didn't really trust the rotational options that he had. I also think there are some of the rotational options we had weren't good enough as well. There's also that. I do kind of look at it and go, yeah, but if you've got Mickey Van der Ven, you've got Romero, you've got Big Kev Dancer, and you've got another solid centre-back option, they will stay healthier. They just will, because they're not having to play as often, So they don't think of injuries. They don't, do they? We will have nearly 70 matches next season if we go deep in all the cups. Well, there you go. Players can't do that. The players cannot physically handle that workload. That's the idea of then going, yeah, but you have 2 for every position. So, even though one, let's say, plays 40 and one plays 30, right? Yeah, but 40 is a good amount of football. It's not crazy amounts of football. It's a game every week sort of thing. That's what you pay to do. It's normal. It's when you're asking, some of those players to be playing 3 times a week, and that's really where the issues were lied this season. You're asking them to play 3 times a week. They're going to break down. The only one that really didn't is Pedro Porro. The rest are going to break down. And then because you've not got the quality around them, they've broken down because you've used them up, and you then suffer because there's not the quality around them to replace them with. So that's why this season is an opportunity to build in quality in and around that group, those groups of, left back, like Desi Udogie. I've been really clear about this. I think Desi Udogie is a phenomenal fullback. I would like Desi Udogie to be fitter for longer. Well, you need then to give him left back support. You need to give, Mickey Van der Ven centre back support. I saw people saying, let's keep Davies for another year because, you don't want to overdo it and let the group be, that centre back room be a bit more empty. I'm thinking, no, this is now the opportunity to move on. This is now the opportunity that, everyone finishes on a high and you replace him. It's that he needs to be freshened up by a new player. So that's why I think there's so much talent at the centre-back area in world football at the moment. We need to be taking advantage of that, Hato or Hincapie would solve the issue. Look, yeah, Hincapie, I've always quite liked, but we're not going to sign him. I know some people go, oh, but why not? Well, Jonathan Tah's leaving on a free to Bayern Munich. They're selling Florian Wirtz and they're selling Jeremy Frimpong. They're making about 200 million, right? With everything included, by the way. They don't need to sell. So they're going to want to try and keep the core of the group, keep Tapsoba, keep Hincapie, keep Grimaldo, keep, Xhaka and Palacios, Sheik and Boniface, and keep the core group together. They won't be cashing in and selling 300-400 million pounds worth of players. Because also, Leverkusen are the second best team in Germany now as well. So now it's about stamping that and making that a regular thing that they're always in there, you know? So there you go. Need 2.5 with a 0.5 from the academy. Exactly. I'd probably say about right, to be fair. It's why Andy keeps going on about a left back or right back as well for Porro and a doggy, including Spence. Yeah. It's to do with the intensity of play. We have to mix tempo to press better. Yeah, this is the thing. It's the beauty, the irony of this season, right? I know people get miserable about the leagues and the stuff like that, right? But just hear me out. You had growing pains, as I like to call it. You know, you got growing pains from Archie and Lucas as they're young players. They go through those growing pains, right? They're so much better this season coming in. They're going to be so much better this season coming in. Spencer's going to be so much better this season. And they're going to play more. They're going to play more frequently. And there's going to be a lot more rotation. And that's exciting. So that's what I'm saying. I don't think Spurs are going out there and signing 7 or 8 players. But, you know, if they go and get a left back, for goodness sake, please get a left back. I just, how has it been this long without signing a new left back? I don't know. Going at another left back, you know, moving off of players that, you know, it's just the right time for some players to move on. And it's not to say they're bad players. It's not to say I'm desperate for them to leave. It's just the time, you know, and things change, you know, keep things fresh, keep things loosey-goosey and all that stuff, you know. So that's my point, you know, having that quality around those players will keep those players at a better level. Also, they'll push these players at their quality, will push the players that we already have to keep developing and keep leveling up. And that's one of the things at Spurs we've always had a problem with. You know, the starting 11 is really good and it can compete with everyone, but behind that is lacking. And it's about damn time we add in some quality. So if there is injuries, if there is suspensions, like every team gets, hopefully we next season don't get the volume we did this season. Medical team, step up, please. It's going to be massive, isn't it? Do you think Sonny will leave? I don't know, Jacob. I know I saw those Saudi reports. I don't really know. I don't know. It's a difficult one. I don't see him in Saudi, but I could definitely see Son in the US. 100% actually. I could see him in the US. He might even go back to the. I mean, Son's probably one of those guys as well that just wants to play in Europe and just keep playing, you know, in European football games. So I think he's here this season. Next season, I don't know. I think Hincapié will cost. I just can't see him moving. Speaking of left back, I saw some silly links to a Botafogo left back. Didn't see it myself, Nikhil. I think they'll use Spence at left back and Gray at right back. See, that's just not. You bought Gray as a midfielder. He should be able to use him at right back for like the last 5 minutes, last 10 minutes of games. If there's, you know, sending off and you need to put him in somewhere, that's fine. But yeah, you sign him as a bloody midfielder. Use him. Not you, Jacob, but in general, just use him. You know. Will any of these left backs do? Cambiasso for Juventus. Kirkes is going to Liverpool, in my opinion. Anthony Robertson. I like Robertson. Aït-Nouri, I think, winds up at City. And I'm not a big Teo Hernandez fan, personally. If you've watched this channel for any of the last 2 months, you'll know that I'm not a fan of Teo Hernandez. He does my head in. Great going forward. Wasteful at times. Great going forward, but like quite lazy in a way, Teo Hernandez, you know. I like Robinson. I do. I think we all quite like Robinson, to be fair. I can't see him leaving Fulham for some reason. I can't. Cambiasso, that was one that's been linked with City as well. Cambiasso, Aït-Nouri, Destiny Doggy, they've all been linked to City, but I mean, we all know Destiny's not leaving anyway. But I think they'll end up with Aït-Nouri. Yeah, I think City will end up at Aït-Nouri, you know. I think Wolves could be in for an interesting summer this summer. You're selling Cunha, you're selling Aït-Nouri, you're making, let's say, about 100, 110 mil. Big summer for Wolves this year, I think. Manager looks solid as well, so yeah. We'll go South Korea. Yeah, we'll go South Korea. Morning, Sean. How are you? If Spurs haven't decided to make a change with their manager, there is no need to make an announcement. We will not get any confirmation of keeping Ange. I hate Levy. Well, we'll get some. There'll be something that will come out. There'll be something that will come out. I definitely want a new left back. Yeah, I want a left back, mate. I don't ask for a lot. I really don't ask for a lot. I just ask for a left back. Please, guys. It's been years since we've signed a left back. The last left back we signed was Destiny Doggy. Could do with it. Apparently, Bruno Fernandes is giving serious consideration to the Saudi move. Ooh. Fascinating. Is the problem that players don't want to come if they're not guaranteed to be a starter? No, I think it's how you, because players are interested in coming. It's like, how are you going to use me? Am I going to get the minutes that I want? Then it's about showing them the project. It's about showing them how Ange would, this is how I'm going to use you. Like Tel rejected Levy, right? Tel rejected Levy. He rejected Lang because they went in there and they absolutely crapped the bed. They absolutely stunk up. Lang stunk up the presentation. Levy goes over there, stinks up the gaff again. And Ange goes, right, so you can't do your job and you can't do your job. Give me the phone. Get out of the way. I'll have a cup of coffee. You make me a coffee. You fetch me a croissant. Give me the phone and get out. Picks up the phone and goes, Mathys, what are we doing? Well, I didn't want to. Mathys, you're talking to me now, all right? Mate. All right, Andrew, see you tomorrow. It's how you present the opportunity. I think like owners, for example, will show them, hey, this is what we're hoping to do with you in 5 years, for this 5 years. Whereas players go, well, that's great, but what about this season? What about for next few months? Because we're talking about January, obviously. Ange goes, well, this is how I'm going to use you this season. And he goes, brilliant. That's what I want to talk about is this season. I don't want to talk about 5 years. I want to talk about now. And I think that's where they maybe got it wrong, went too much into, you're a young player. This is how you're going to develop. And Ange went, mate, you're going to be here playing now. Forget about then. Talk about the now, So players, obviously, it's all about having multiple per position, isn't it? So yeah, that's that. You can definitely do Eze left back. Don't even, Steve. All right, because Eze is my number one guy, but I do really want a left back. So Eze, stick him at left back. There you go. No, he doesn't have to make a statement, but something will come out from the ITKs or something like Romano or something, just to say, I signed a boy, I like him. Kirkin at left back. I think he stays with Sunderland as well, just because they've come up. I think they'll sell Bellingham. I think they'll cash in on Bellingham. But it's the issue when you come back from the Championship now. It's so hard to stay up. Look at the money that you have to spend. It's not easy staying up anymore. You like Fede Kadioglu. Yeah. Maybe sign Joshua Kimmich. Yeah, that'd be all right, wouldn't it? Sign Joshua Kimmich. Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We've not sold anyone yet, so we are not getting anything yet. Terrible. A few more comments. I reckon we get Kyle Walker-Peters as a backup. Rotation. You get Kyle Walker-Peters as a rotational piece. This isn't it's not a dig at you, by the way, Francis. In my mind, I'm always trying to change some of the terminology that we're using. Yeah, rotational option, not backup. Just because I think, when I look at Manchester City, for example, and they have all these players, there's no backups. They're just rotational options. Same with Liverpool. I think Arsenal has that. He's a backup. That's a backup player, and I think that's maybe it is a bit of an issue. I think. Whereas with us, I'm trying to get into the idea of he's not a backup. He's a rotational option. Jarell Hato. I like Hato. No news on that, though. What do you think of Spurs to go for Kudu? Not sure who Kudu is, mate. Hey, DJ, how are you? Hey, Andy. You know too well the full power of the word, mate. It's aura. It's how it has even from ange. Players can't say no, mate. Yeah, honestly. Once you're in a room with Ange and you're a player, and he's like, "Well, I don't know if I'm going to sign," and he just goes, "Mate, yeah, where's the pen? I'll sign now. There you go. Where's the contract? You know, he just says one word. Doesn't tell you about how he's going to use you. Doesn't tell you how much you're going to play football. He just goes, mate, and they go, done. I will see you tomorrow for training. Oh, you mean Kudus? No, won't be going for him. Miguel Gutierrez from Girona. Does he not potentially wind up at City because they're part of the City group? For some reason, we have more links to Vans than left backs. Well, they might view Spence as a left back. That's the other thing. They might view Spence as a left back, and if they do, then you have to sign a right back, and that therefore Vanderson may reappear. Although I haven't really seen much on him. Yeah, outgoes will be important, Sean, for sure. Guess we tend to say backup because the quality isn't there to be rotational players in the squad as a rule. No, exactly. And that's where my attitude is try and make it more about rotation. And that also coincides with the idea that I'm hoping they'll see as we need to buy quality. And then there'll be rotation, you know. How much will Matoma cost? 70-ish. Not worth the money, in my opinion. It's also in his late 20s, I think. Because people keep talking about Matoma. They rejected like 90 odd million in January for him, right? Matoma. He's 28. 41 games played, 11 goals, 4 assists, 15 goal contributions, 1 in every 3. It's not bad, but for 70 odd million, I'd expect a little bit more personally. Like, for example, right? Because I always bloody talk about him. Why don't I bring him in? You know, the number one target I have this summer, old Eberiche Eze. Good at chess, don't forget. He's good at chess. Where's here we go, transfer market. He's 26, so younger. He does turn 27 in about a month's time. But this season, 43 games, same amount of games, basically, 14 goals and 11 assists, 25 goal contributions to 15. That's why, yeah, I'm more about Eze personally. What are the club train numbers? It's not a lot at the moment, is it? Well, also, you're moving off of Alfie Whiteman. That's another club train gone. Obviously, how they view club trained is different in Europe than they do the Premier League. So in Europe, we're going to be struggling again. We were struggling last season, but we're going to be struggling again. Brandon Austin, you will be important. Looking at quick passes, I reckon Alanga from Forest would be a good addition. Well, we were linked with Hudson-Odoi, weren't we, for a little while? Is Sarr now club trained? No, I think Sarr, we all thought he was going to tick the boxes, but doesn't anymore. You know, I think we need one-on-one winger, and Matoma is good. I don't know, Lewis. I think the right winger, people go, he needs to be able to beat his man. And me is like, is he scoring or assisting? He is. Great. Done. You know. Eze can't really play wide. I think Eze can. I think it's a thing that everyone talks about. Eze can. Is he maybe better centrally, potentially, though? I think I'm the only Spur not convinced of Spence at left back. At the position, you need a left foot capable ball up the line. He has lost possession in crucial times last season. Yeah, I mean, look, again, I think that plays into all the rotation that you do in the Premier League this season when we're making 8 or 9 changes because all we give a damn about is Europe. It will be better when he next season plays with a lot more of the first teamers because there's going to be some rotation, hopefully. I think, yeah, I think he's better at left back because of the cutbacks, things like that. Because at right back, Porro doesn't really do overlapping as much. Porro's more of a cut the ball back, I'm going to whip across in. But if they change the system with the right, Spence would overlap and things like that, then it's fine. But yeah, I see what you mean. I've talked about that Excel. I've sort of said Tel, actually. Tome's good, but a little bit overrated. Eze, Madison, Cooley. Not many decent wingers out there that are realistically available now that I think about it. But yeah, there you go. Look, thank you all so much for joining me this morning. It's now afternoon, but thank you all so much for joining me this morning and afternoon. Go and enjoy the rest of your mornings, afternoons, evenings, wherever you are in the world. Thank you all for the likes and the comments. You're absolute bloody legends. And I'll be back tomorrow to definitely talk a lot more about Spurs. But yeah, watch out on the channel going forward with posts and things like that. And I'll speak to you all then. Take care, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your days. Peace.